Hi, I wanted to talk to you about the 3 fitness mistakes I no longer make since I became a Pilates instructor. I think there's so much out there about how we get fit, how we get strong. And it's not to say that this stuff is wrong, but I think the key point I'm going to ask you to listen to today is it's how we interpret information. And it's a big piece of Pilates training is how do clients interpret the words that you use to get them to do something. And the first one is, I don't engage my core. And this is always a controversial one. I also don't really engage my glutes. Now look, of course I do, but I don't consciously engage them. And that's the difference, okay? There's a lot of cueing out there that says kind of engage your core, like engage your glutes, pull up your pelvic floor. But what does that really mean? And how you think about it might be different to how I think about it, might be different to how somebody else thinks about it. And that's the point. Our body is this hugely, beautifully complex system that works in ways we can never, ever imagine. Maybe one day we'll know a little bit more, but I doubt we'll ever know all of it. And then we think that we can kind of consciously tell it what to do. And if you think about it, like if I said to you, I want you to consciously tell your muscles to lift your leg, like you wouldn't really know exactly what you're lifting, would you? You would tell it the aim, I want it to lift my leg, and it would do it. And then when you're up there, you might notice that, your quad's engaged or whatever. And that's the point, like our muscles will do its job to do something. So when it comes to core or glutes or biceps, it doesn't really matter, right? If you put the bones in the right place, the muscles will do their job. And that's the key. And when we keep overly simplifying it and engaging, actually all we're training in is stiffness, like on. Because the truth is what you want in the body is a range, on, somewhere in the middle, somewhere a bit less, off. And what I see in a lot of people is not a lack of strength, but actually too much tension, too much holding, too much kind of hypertension in the system. And then you haven't got that kind of feeling of the body, having a range and having elasticity, because the body wants elasticity. Okay, so it's not to say that when you hear teachers saying those cues that they're wrong, but really what they're asking you to do is, can you notice if your abs are engaged? Are your glutes working here? And if they're not, adjust your movements so that you can feel them. Okay, but don't just stay in a movement that wasn't working them and then suck it all in, because that's not really going to build functional, useful strength for you. The second thing is I don't push myself to breaking point. And this was definitely a big piece for me. I'd spent my whole life, I don't know if it's just, I often think it's a bit of a female thing. Maybe you guys might be feeling this too, but I definitely feel from a girl's perspective, my life was very much that, work hard at school, you'll do well. Work hard at your exams, you'll do well. Go into the workplace, do well. Go up the ladder, go up the ladder, go up the ladder. Have your children, but then still keep your career and do it all. That was my life. It's like, and then in my mid-20s, I started to severely start to burn out. I had a lot of pain. I had a lot of exhaustion. I used to feel like everyone around me could just do it, but I just didn't seem to be able to do it. And what I learned through movement was that when I actually found more of a sense of ease, more of a sense of relaxation in my movement, my nervous system calmed down and I kind of had more ease and space in my life. And somehow, through this place of ease, I got way more toned. I got stronger. I got out of pain. Like I slimmed down. I think I lost 2 dress sizes. And, I still sometimes catch myself going, is that really like how it is? And actually having my baby recently this year, I'm going to be honest about this. I got caught up in the doing more mentality and I kept finding pain. I was like, oh, why is my body failing me? Why is it not doing anything? And I remember having this real moment where I was like, what would I say to a client? And I said this, and I took this advice. I started doing less classes, being way easy with my movement. And then it all just started to kind of come back. So genuinely, this is an approach that works. It can just feel very counterintuitive. And on that same note, I've stopped believing, my third thing is I stopped believing that it had to be hard to be any good. That's another thing that was drilled into me my whole life. There's no benefit without pushing yourself, without it being hard. But if you do a sit-up or a plank and it feels easier, does that mean that it's not as beneficial than if you did a plank and it was really hard? Because you're still working your muscles to be in a plank position, but your body is working together. It's connecting things together. And so when I started to have this approach in my classes of, okay, how could I make this bridge feel as easy as possible? How could I make this plank feel as easy as possible? I started to kind of play with movement and challenge myself and start to see what maybe wasn't connecting up. Could I find more arms? Could I find more length? What if I stretched out? What if I went a bit shorter? What if my head reached, What if I maybe put a bit more weight in my right arm than my left? Like what, and what could I do? And I started playing with movement. And that's what I encourage you to do. Play with movement, but have this intention of, how can I make this feel as easy as possible? Because when you start to find that ease and efficiency and it feels easy, there's more in the tank, and then you can ramp up the challenge, and that's when it gets super, super fun. But if you start off and you feel like, I have this mentality that this needs to be hard to feel anything, then you're never going to go very far, okay? Because the easy stuff is going to be hard. I want you to notice that the easy stuff could be really easy, and then let the hard stuff not be hard, but a challenge, because a challenge is something you can meet. And when you're ready to meet a challenge, it's super fun, it's super safe, and it's super effective.